is a shadow that lingers over us, an unrelenting darkness that whispers doubt into even the strongest of hearts. You ask me, is there still hope? And I would be a fool to answer without thought, for hope is not a simple thing. It is neither born of blind optimism, nor conjured out of thin air. Hope is forged, hardened like steel in the fire of trial. It is a choice, my dear friend, often made in defiance of all that seems logical. You see, hope is not the absence of despair, but the strength to stand firm in its presence. There was a time long ago when I too questioned its existence. As the shadow of Sauron rose in the east, there were moments, brief, fleeting moments, when even I wondered if the light would endure. But I have learned this. The light does not vanish because the night grows darker. It waits, patient and unwavering, for those who are brave enough to seek it. The path of hope is not an easy one. It demands more of us than despair ever will. To give in to hopelessness is to surrender, to lay down your sword and accept defeat. But to hope, to hope is to fight. It is to rise each morning with the determination to face the trials ahead, no matter how insurmountable they may seem. Yet I would not be honest if I told you that hope alone is enough. It must be accompanied by action, by will, by the unyielding belief that even the smallest effort can ripple through the fabric of the world. You might think yourself insignificant, as so many do. You might wonder, what can one person achieve against such overwhelming darkness? But let me remind you of something. It was not great armies that saved Middle-earth. It was not mighty kings or endless wealth. It was a hobbit, a small, humble soul with no claim to power or grandeur, who bore the weight of the ring. Frodo did not think himself a hero. He was afraid, as any of us would be, but he took one step, then another, and in doing so, he carried us all. So, I ask you, what burdens do you carry? What darkness threatens to consume you? Do not dismiss your own strength, for it is often in our weakest moments that we discover our greatest courage. The key, I believe, lies not in denying the darkness, but in understanding that it is a part of the journey. We are not meant to walk in the light alone. The shadows, too, have their lessons to teach. Think of the stars. They are most visible in the deepest of nights. So it is with hope. It shines brightest when the world is at its darkest. And while we may falter, while we may stumble and fall, the light is always there to guide us back. It is never beyond reach, so long as we have the courage to seek it. I know you're weary. I can see it in your eyes, hear it in your voice. The battles you have fought have left scars, some visible, some not. But let me tell you this, scars are not a sign of weakness. They are proof that you have endured, that you have lived, and there is strength in that. Do not let your wounds define you. Let them remind you of the battles you have survived, the victories you have claimed, no matter how small. And if you feel that you cannot carry on, know this, you are not alone. The world is vast, and its burdens are heavy, but they are not yours to bear alone. Look around you. There are others who walk the same path. Others who, like you, seek the light. Together, you are stronger than you can imagine. Certainly. Here's the continuation of Is There Still Hope? By Gandalf. The contemplative tone will deepen, weaving optimism and wisdom while acknowledging the darkness we all face. Let me tell you a truth that many have forgotten. The world does not owe us light. It does not owe us peace or joy or fairness. These things, though they seem natural to us, must be fought for, cherished and protected. And in that fight, we are bound to falter. We are bound to question whether our efforts mean anything at all. But take heart in this. The mere act of standing, of refusing to bow to despair, is in itself a victory. There have been times far older than the lives of men when I have witnessed hope rise from the ashes of despair. Do you think Gondor's white tree blossomed without struggle? It stood barren for years, its branches a reminder of what was lost. Yet the roots held firm deep in the soil, waiting for the right moment. And when it bloomed again, it was not the past restored, but a new beginning born of patience and resilience. You see, hope is not a straight road. It twists and turns, leading us through shadows before we ever glimpse the light. There are valleys so deep you may think you'll never climb out, storms so fierce you may believe they will never end. But every valley has a crest, and every storm runs its course. The key is not to rush, not to demand answers before their time. It is to keep walking step by step, even when the path seems unclear. You ask me if there is still hope. I tell you that hope is not something we find. It is something we build, brick by brick, moment by moment, choice by choice. It begins small, like the faintest ember, and grows only when tended with care. Perhaps you believe your efforts too small to matter, but consider this. The mightiest flame begins with a single spark. Do not underestimate the power of small acts. A kind word, a helping hand, a moment of patience. These things may seem insignificant, but they carry the weight of mountains. They ripple outward, touching lives in ways we cannot see. Even the smallest light can pierce the deepest shadow. But there is more to hope than kindness. It requires courage. It requires you to face the darkness within yourself, to confront the fears and doubts that whisper lies into your heart. It is easy to believe that you're not enough, that the world's wounds are too deep for one person to heal. But remember this, the world is not healed all at once. It is healed piece by piece, by those who dare to try. I will not lie to you. There will be losses. There will be days when the darkness feels insurmountable. There will be moments when you wonder why you even bother. And in those moments you must remember this. The effort itself is worth it. The fight, even if it seems futile, is not in vain. For every step forward, no matter how small, brings us closer to the light. Do you know why I believe in hope? Because I have seen it endure in the most unlikely of places. I have seen it in the eyes of those who have lost everything but refuse to give up. I have seen it in the hearts of those who risk their lives for others, expecting nothing in return. I have seen it in the resilience of the earth itself, which renews and flourishes despite all that seeks to destroy it. Hope is not a promise of easy days or painless nights. It is not a guarantee that all will end well. But it is a lifeline, a guide through the storm. It is the strength to stand when you feel like falling, the courage to speak when silence feels safer. It is the belief that no matter how dark the night, the dawn will come. And so I ask you, what will you do with your hope? Will you let it wither, a seed unplanted? Or will you nurture it, allowing it to grow into something greater than yourself? You may think the choice is too great, the burden too heavy. But let me assure you, every one of us carries this responsibility. And every one of us is capable of rising to meet it. The question you ask, is there still hope, is one that echoes through every age, through every heart. And the answer, my friend, is not mine to give, it is yours to find. But I can tell you this, hope is never truly lost. It waits like the morning sun, ready to rise when the time is right. And if you cannot see it now, then perhaps it is because you are meant to become it. So rise, not because the world is fair or kind, but because you have the power to make it so. Rise, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Rise because within you lies the spark of something Arno, something unyielding. Rise because the light you seek is already within you. And when you rise, you will find that hope has been with you all along. It is not something distant or unattainable. It is a part of you, as much as the air you breathe or the ground beneath your feet. It is a choice, a journey, a promise. And though the road ahead may be long, though it may be fraught with trials and pain, it is a road worth taking. For in the end, hope is not about the destination. It is about the journey. It is about the moments of light that break through the darkness, the bonds we forge, the strength we discover within ourselves. It is about choosing to believe against all odds that the world can be better and that we have the power to make it so. Hope is a peculiar thing, isn't it? It is not always the loud proclamation of triumph, nor the blinding radiance of a blazing sun. More often than not, it is quiet, so quiet that one might mistake it for absence. It hides in the corners of the heart, like a faint melody that refuses to be silenced. Sometimes hope is but a whisper, a fragile thing, and yet it has endured through ages of despair. Do you remember the tales of Numenor? A proud kingdom of men, blessed with gifts beyond measure, yet consumed by their hunger for power. The darkness of their fall was deep, and many would say it extinguished all hope for their people. But there were those, few though they were, who held on to a spark of something greater. Elendil, Isildur, and those who fled to Middle-earth did not look back with despair, but forward with resolve. Out of the ashes of Numenor came the kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor, and from those kingdoms rose new hope, though it took centuries to blossom fully. Do you see what I mean? Hope is often born in the shadow of great loss. It does not erase the pain or undo the harm, but it reminds us that even in ruin, there is a seed of renewal. The world moves in cycles, and while the darkness may seem endless, it is never the whole story. You speak of darkness as though it were a thing to be banished entirely. would I tell you this? Without the night, we would not see the stars. Do not misunderstand me. Darkness can be cruel, a weight that crushes the spirit and blinds the eyes. Yet, it is also a teacher, if we are willing to learn. It reveals our fears, our weaknesses, and our doubts. But it also reveals our strength. It forces us to confront what we would rather ignore, to find light where we thought there was none. Think of Frodo and Sam. Their journey to Mount Doom was not one of glory or ease. It was a long, grueling trial through desolation and despair. Yet they pressed on, not because they believed they would return unscathed, but because they knew their task mattered. They carried hope not just for themselves, but for all who depended on them. And when Frodo could no longer bear the burden, it was Sam who carried him forward. Do you see? Even in the darkest hour, hope did not abandon them. It simply changed form, passing from one to the other like a flame shared between candles. And so I say to you, do not fear the darkness. Do not despair when the way forward seems impossible. For it is in these moments when all seems lost that hope reveals its true nature. It is not a thing to be found. It is a thing to be made. You must understand something about yourself, my friend. You are not as small or as powerless as you think. The world may try to convince you otherwise. It may heap burdens upon your shoulders and whisper lies into your ear, telling you that your actions do not matter. But let me tell you the truth. You have within you the power to shape your own story. Do not measure your worth by the grandness of your deeds. Not all of us are destined to slay dragons or lead armies. Sometimes the greatest acts of courage are the smallest. Getting out of bed on a day when despair weighs heavy, offering a kind word to a stranger, or daring to dream when the world tells you not to. These acts, though small, are the foundation of hope. They ripple outward, unseen but powerful, touching lives in ways you may never know. You must also learn to forgive yourself, for hope cannot flourish in a heart weighed down by guilt and regret. We all falter. We all make choices we wish we could undo. But the past is not a prison. It is a teacher. Look back only to learn. Then turn your face to the future, for that is where hope resides. In the choices you have yet to make, the paths you have yet to walk. And what of the world itself? You may wonder if it is worth hoping for. You may see its cruelty, its greed, its endless cycles of war and strife, and feel that it cannot be redeemed. But I tell you this, the world is not broken. It is unfinished. It is a tapestry still being woven, and each of us holds a thread. The question is not whether the world can be saved, but whether we will choose to save it. Do not be discouraged by the scale of the task. Remember this. No one is asked to do everything, but everyone is asked to do something. Find your thread, no matter how small it may seem, and weave it into the pattern. You may not see the final design, but that does not make your contribution any less important. And remember, too, that you are not alone. The darkness would have you believe otherwise, but it lies. There are others who walk this path beside you, even if you cannot always see them. Seek them out, share your burdens, and take up theirs in return. For hope is not a solitary thing. It is a fire kindled by many hands. So, is there still hope? The answer, my dear friend, is yes. There is hope in every breath, in every choice, in every moment of kindness and courage. There is hope in you and in me and in all who dare to believe. The world can be better. It is not always easy to see, and it is never without cost, but it is always there. Take heart, then. The road ahead may be long, but you are not walking it in vain. And when you falter, as we all do, remember this: hope is not about never falling. It is about always rising again. And now we come to the heart of the matter, the question of why. Why should we continue to hope when the weight of the world grows so heavy? Why should we fight for a future that seems so uncertain, so fragile? Let me tell you a story. There was a time long before this age when I walked among the great forests of Middle-earth. The trees were tall and wise, their roots deep in the earth, their leaves shimmering like gold in the sun. But there came a day when I stumbled upon a clearing where a great tree lay fallen. Its trunk was split, its branches broken, its leaves scattered like ashes on the wind. I stood there for a long time, mourning the loss of such beauty. But as I knelt to touch the broken earth, I saw something remarkable. There, amidst the ruin, a tiny sapling had begun to grow. Its leaves were small and frail, its stem no thicker than a twig. but it stood tall against the wind. It was a reminder that even in the face of destruction, life endures. Hope, like that sapling, may be fragile, but it is also unyielding. It takes root in the cracks of our despair and pushes upward, reaching for the light. This is the nature of hope. It does not deny the reality of loss or pain. It does not pretend that the world is free of sorrow, but it insists quietly and steadfastly that there is something more. That even in the darkest of times, there is a seed of light waiting to grow. But let us not mistake hope for an excuse to ignore the work that must be done. Hope is not a passive thing. It is an active force. It demands of us both courage and wisdom. It asks us to see the world not as it is, but as it could be, and to take the steps necessary to bring that vision to life. There will be times when you are tempted to look away from the world's suffering, to shield yourself from its pain. And I do not blame you. The burden of witnessing such things can be heavy. But remember this: to turn away is to allow the darkness to grow unchecked, to face it, to stand in its presence and say, "I will not let this define me," is an act of defiance, a declaration of hope. And you are stronger than you know. There is a fire within you, a strength that may lie dormant, but is never extinguished. You may not feel it now. You may feel as though the darkness has taken everything from you. But the fire is there, waiting for the moment when you will call upon it. And when that moment comes, you will find that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. Do not let the world convince you that you are powerless. You may be one person, but one person can change the course of history. Think of Frodo carrying the ring into Mordor. Think of Eowyn standing alone against the Witch King. Think of Sam, whose loyalty and courage turned the tide of despair. None of them thought themselves great or mighty. They were simply ordinary souls who chose to do extraordinary things. And that is the essence of hope, the choice to act, even when the odds are against you. The choice to believe that your actions, no matter how small, can make a difference. For they can, and they will. I know you carry wounds that others cannot see. I know the weight of your burdens, the doubts that haunt you in the quiet hours of the night. And I know that there are days when the darkness feels overwhelming, and you wonder if you have the strength to go on. But let me tell you this: you are not alone. The road you walk may feel solitary, but there are others who walk it with you, even if you cannot see them. And there are those who wait for you at its end, ready to welcome you with open arms. You are part of something greater than yourself, a thread in the tapestry of this world, and though your thread may feel small, it is vital. Without it, the tapestry would be incomplete. And so I say to you, do not despair. Do not give in to the darkness, no matter how loud its whispers may become. For the world is not as hopeless as it seems. There is beauty still, if you have the eyes to see it. There is kindness, if you have the heart to seek it. And there is hope, always hope, if you have the courage to believe in it. The question is not whether there is hope. The question is whether you will choose to hold on to it, to nurture it, to let it guide you through the storm. The choice is yours, and yours alone. When the night seems darkest, when the stars are hidden and the way forward is unclear, remember this: the dawn will come. It always does. And when it does, you will look back on this time not as a period of defeat, but as a chapter in your story. A story of resilience, of courage, and of hope. So rise, my friend. Rise and carry your light into the world, for there is still hope, and it begins with you.